I often wonder that when it comes to personality tests, and we also hear that you should ask what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Everywhere we see, uh, we read all these things, or we hear from the self-development trainers or coaches. Then actually, I wonder how exactly we should look at these things, personality tests or these strengths and weaknesses. Because on one side we are saying that just now you said that persistence and determination is the key. Then if I have got my strengths, I have got result for personality tests, how I should look those towards those test results.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. I think many organizations employ uh, personality tests for their for the benefit of their employees to help them try to figure out how they fit into the organization. But what I'm more interested in is how we use them as individuals to figure out how we can improve ourselves, to figure out what our blind spots are, and to really understand ourselves, getting back to what we talked about before, this whole concept of self-reflection. And I'm constantly looking at ways to try to better understand myself. And it was part of a dinner conversation. We had some friends over a few nights ago, and there are a couple of psychologists that are part of our friend group that were here for dinner the other night. And uh, and there was a discussion around the table about a particular approach for evaluating yourself, and it's called the Enneagram uh, approach, the Enneagram test, spelled Enneagram. And I've again, as a high performer, when I hear something like this, I become very interested, and I become very curious. I want to understand it and really apply it. And what I came to find is that this particular approach to personality profile, it's it, 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 it's probably, just based on my limited research over the last few days, it seems to be identified as the one that best serves individuals for personal growth. And a lot of times therapists will use, psychological therapists will use it with their clients, but it's something that we can use as individuals. And one thing that as I was taking the quiz for the Enneagram, one thing that just became really obvious to me, because I took it a couple of times, because the first time I went through it, I said, the answers weren't who I am. I said, that identified someone who I, at the moment, aspired to be, not a particular individual, but a type of person that I aspired, that I wanted to be. And that's good to know who that is and maybe which direction is, but it's better to really understand who you are. So when you take these psychology profiles, it's uncomfortable. Like I said before, when we when we are developing ourselves. Now think about the physical world. Think about athletes. You've heard the phrase "no pain, no gain." And that, what that refers to is, if I'm not working out hard enough so that I'm experiencing some level of discomfort, then I'm not getting anywhere. And that's the same thing with everything in life, is that you've got to go through some discomfort in order to realize growth. And relative to personality profiling, that's also the case. If you know that when you've taken one of these online evaluations, one of these online tests, you know that you've identified the right personality profile when you have mixed feelings about it. When you have a sense of pride about the good things, but then you have a sense of shame about the bad things. And that tells you that you're over the target. You know,
Yes.
you're at that point where, oh, that's who I am. Because coming to realization with your blind spots, the things that are, you know, the negative aspects of your personality, coming to terms with that is really difficult. It's hard to do. And that's one of the areas that is the work in our lives, is to come to terms with the things that we're a little bit ashamed of, right? You know, so the Enneagram is a great approach, and I've provided you with the test that I took. It's a free test that tells you which of the 9 different dimensions you are, and there's also a link that helps to describe what those 9 dimensions are. If you decide to buy the full report, I think it's, you know, it's like $20, $19 US. But you know, it's not something that you need to do. It's just an opportunity for you to take the test, which is about I think 200 questions that you have to answer. And I would say, if you put in 30 minutes to answering those questions for this particular test, that's about the right amount of time. You want to think about each one of them and really answer them in terms of, this is exactly how I would answer this question. And you know, and it's not who I want to be. You know, it's who I am. That's tough. That's difficult. That's a difficult. Self-reflection is hard work. It's really hard, but really valuable.
I completely agree with you. While I have given myself so many personality tests, and we tend to select the answer towards the person whom we want to become, okay, not who we are today. And that's really difficult, okay, because we feel ashamed that we are not good enough in that area, and we choose the answer which reflects our future self. So we should be really careful in answering those questions meticulously, and then only we will get true self-reflection. And I personally see towards this personality test is I get some areas of my improvement, right? But one thing is very clear, that we should not limit ourselves with this personality test. That because it is given this test, I cannot do this thing good. Okay, that should not be the case, and that's where I think people should be careful. Otherwise, they might develop this bias that my personality is introvert. I can never be an extrovert, like, so that should not be the case. And there, actually, I tell people that it should be the guideline to understand what you are today, but that's not basically who you want to be. You can change it. You can take some consistent action, and you can change it, and it is possible, right? I think you can suggest something on this, whether this natural personality traits, to some extent, I think those are flexible. What is your take on this?
Yeah, I absolutely agree that's the case. And you know, furthermore, you know, when we take a lot of these personality tests, like Myers-Briggs, for example,
Yeah,
you know, it puts you into one bin. You know, this is who you are, ENTJ, or
yeah,
whatever it is, right? And it's like, oh, and so it says that, you know, people are, you know, of, you know, these, you know, distinct areas. I mean, you know, astrology is kind of the same way. You know,
yes,
every Capricorn is the same.
yeah,
Not real. No, it's impossible. Everybody who's born in the month of December is exactly the same. Just doesn't make sense. And there's so many contributing factors. So the reason why I like the Enneagram is it's really fluid, and it, you know, and it recognizes that there's interactions between each of the personality profiles, and suggests that there's elements of so you think of there's 9 personality profiles, and it's a continuum, it's a circle. And so whatever I actually came out at about the same level with 2 different personality profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And for each one of those, there are 2 nearest neighbors. And for each one of those nearest neighbors, there's a lot of interaction. And so, so there's a little bit of, 6 different personality profiles that are in me, with 2 that are dominant. And then there's all these other interactions that the Enneagram helps you to reveal and understand. And again, it's simply a tool. And
Yes,
how you use that tool makes all the difference. I mean, if the tool that you have is a hammer, and you're trying to pound a nail in with the claw on the hammer, you're not going to get very far. You need to turn the hammer over. And so if you're taking a personality test by answering questions that are who you aspire to be, but not who you are, you're not using the tool properly. And so that's just one way to look at it in terms of how to use the tool properly. But yeah, it's and it's fascinating to me to learn about yourself and to learn about other people and how you interact, and it's just one step, it's one tool, but a really valuable one, and kind of fun to take these online evaluations. But the Enneagram, I think, is the best for personal growth and development, the one that you can use as a tool to take your life to the next level.
Yes, that was really insightful, and I like the analogy how you compared the astrology to this personality test. It always comes into my mind, and India has this deep-rooted astrology. Astrology is a science in India, and many people believe in astrology, and it is similar way. As we are finding out our personality trait, as you rightly mentioned in this Myers-Briggs 16 personality test, if you are ENTJ or ENFJ, then people will, or we myself, get that bias that we are this, right? So same thing happens with astrology. People think that we are Leos, that's why we are behaving this way. And so many biases we develop. And yes, rightly, it is just a guideline which we can use for our betterment, but it should not never become a limitation for us. That is the point which everyone should be careful about. Even for astrology, people who follow astrology, I also tell them that just use it for guideline. Don't be binded by that fact that you are someone, right? It's quite interesting. So this tool which you have mentioned, we are going to share with the audience in the YouTube description, so that they can go and take this free personality test, and they can find out about their traits. That's quite interesting. All of you will surely enjoy that activity.